Hi, I'm Shaken Gaming, and welcome to my second part of my 100 game reviews in a row, or nostalgic look back at games I've played through the times. All the games on the list I've played a minimum of 10 hours each, and some of them quite a few hours more. Before I start on number 25, I'll be covering 25 to 50 in this video. Here's my first PC. It's a 086 IBM with 12 megabytes of hard disk drive. 12 megabyte. Amazing. Well, on to the games. Bobble. Released on PC in 1989. I had to play it again, so I actually played it a lot with a friend. In high school, we used to 9 out of 10 times complete all 100 stages each time. It was sort of something we just had to do now and then. We had great fun with it. Very good memories. That was number 25. I'll go quickly to 26 because we already talked about Bobble. So, I promise no other games are 2 times on the list. This is the original Worms game. It's called Scorched Earth from 1991, number 26 on the list. And the gameplay is the same as in Worms, just released some years earlier. It was very complex. It's hard to explain really. All the telegraphs on the screen are prior shots. You could see where your last shot landed and which direction it followed. You had to watch wind up there. You had to watch gravity if that was changed. You had to time a fuse on some of the shots. You had to choose your ammo, and you had crazy things like mini nukes that could take out a quarter of the screen. You had napalm, and a lot of these abilities could easily kill yourself in the process. It's very ugly, but the gameplay was so good. I played this a lot, solo actually, and had great fun with it. At 27, Civilization from 1991. Everyone knows the Civilization series, but I guess not a lot has played Civilization 1, or just Civilization as it was called. Gameplay-wise, it's the same. And you can see there was irrigation as still exists in the game, and you had various troops, but nothing compared to what it is today. I didn't play it a lot. It was quite complex and very time consuming, and I never had this on my own PC. The very first person shooter game, Wolfenstein 3D. It was clunky to play, but it was amazing because it kickstarted the entire genre of, I can't mention all the games, but Quake, Unreal Tournament, Doom, Duke Nukem, lots and lots of games, even Counter-Strike. You could argue this was the first, and therefore an epic game. It was very hard, and it was not very politically correct for nowadays times. You can see the swastika. Yes, you fought Hitler's forces, and he was depicted quite a lot on pictures and stuff. You wouldn't see that today, but a great game. Dune 2 from 1982 at number 29. the game that started the genre that Warcraft picked up and Command and Conquer later. Resource management, gathering, harvesting, building, defenses, walls, artillery, infantry, and fighting other factions. It was so good. It was amazingly good. 3 different factions and, well, yeah, the gameplay, you know the style, but I didn't play the first one. I hear it was bad, but the second one, they perfected everything, and it was good. Number 30, SimCity 2000 from 1993. The first, no, not the first, there was one prior, but the game that started the city building for real. It was the game that became immensely popular, very casual-like, and on everybody had this on their PC. It was brand new, and people that didn't like monsters or fighting and cars and stuff like that had a different game to play, and therefore it appealed to a lot of different people. And well, if you got too bored, you could always turn on natural disasters, have an earthquake or similar. Wasn't there a Godzilla even that you could release? Yeah, I think so. Came out of the water and destroyed your city. I don't know why, but sort of a gimmick. This was very, very, very popular. At 31, Doom. Released in 1993. And the first one on my list that I'm very certain that I've played more than 100 hours. All the others, until now, I can only justify to have played 10 plus hours. Doom, I'd say 100 plus. You all know the game style. It was the first-person shooter from Wolfenstein 3D. Just made so much better in every possible way. And it kickstarted an entire genre. I guess a lot of people couldn't see that because the clunky controlling in Wolfenstein and the slow gameplay. But in Doom, they perfected it. You had a much better steering, and it felt so good. At 32, Colonization from 1994. Basically just a different kind of civilization. Not a great game. 33, Warcraft from 1994. Again, building on further on the success of Dune 2, but made a lot more accessible to people, and kickstarting Blizzard in some ways. I know they made the Lost Vikings first, but Warcraft is, well, Warcraft. Everyone knows Warcraft today. This was the first Warcraft game. At 34, Master of Magic from 1994. A highly complex strategic game. Some of it might look like Colonization or Civilization, but this was different. It had the magic element, and it had a big focus on fighting and heroes with spell casting as well. It was a very, very good game and highly complex. It took so long time just to learn, get just a bit into the game without wiping, because you would fail miserably if you didn't make the right choices. This was a very, very good strategic game from 1995. Doom 2 at number 35. Everyone knows Doom. Second Doom game on the list. And It was the same gameplay, everything the same, just better. This was also the first game that I tried with a 0 modem in between two PCs. So, sort of like a LAN, just two PCs. And we could play deathmatch for the first time ever, competing in first-person shooter. It was heated at times. It was rough, but man, we had fun with this. 36, Descent, also from 1995. This was hard. You had to have a very, very good joystick with multiple buttons. You were riding this airship thing, spaceship. The hard part was that it was in 4 dimensions. So there wasn't an up, there wasn't a down, there wasn't a right, there wasn't a left. It all depended on which way you moved, which way you turned. So you could point in all those directions, and the mazes that you flew through and had to find enemies in was in all dimensions. It was very, very hard to navigate in. That's what I remember mostly. You could so easily get lost and in a 4D maze. So hard. Another 1995 game, Hexen, Beyond Heretic. Heretic was the original game. Hexen was making it better. It was, as you can see, it looks like a bit like Doom, but in a fantasy world instead. It had an atmosphere and a feeling to it that made it chill your spine. It was so good at that. There's a Hexen 2 on the list later on, but it never captured the same feel that this game did. It might be ugly graphic, but somehow they made you feel you were playing in the game. You could feel the dread and the evil in this due to the sounds. The lighting was very, very good. It doesn't justify the game, this screenshot, but you can't replicate that, the atmosphere that you felt playing it. Very good game due to the atmosphere. The gameplay wasn't that good. Doom was a far lot better. The first Command and Conquer game, 38, came out in 1995. You know the game type. From Dune 2 to Warcraft to Command and Conquer. Just more complex, less infantry, more tanks, more airplanes. The same. Great game. They have made so many Command and Conquer games after this one, so that says quite a bit about the success. There's also a few more Command and Conquer games on this list, but I won't spend much time on them. At 39, Warcraft 2 from 1995, same year as Command and Conquer. Same gameplay, new graphics, new units, but the same game. Was good. Number 40 on my list is Sid Meier's Civilization 2 from 1996. It redefined the genre, really, of having a complex world, exploring, building, dominance, politics, diplomacy, resource management. It was such a good game, and still is actually. It's my favorite Civilization game. I used to install it now and then, even years later, even after Civilization 4 came out. I still played Civilization 2. It's one of the games that passed the 100 hours played for me. Didn't make it through to 500 hours, my top. But definitely well above 100 hours played on this one. Big thumbs up. At 41 from 96 again. Duke Nukem 3D. Fantastic game. Another one I reckon I've played more than 100 hours. Another first-person shooter, but this time not from ID Software. So the first big one to challenge ID with their Doom games at the time. It brought a lot of new stuff. Gameplay-wise, it was exactly the same type of game as Doom, but it had weird weaponry. It had funny characters like the pig cops. Several weird references, and I remember there was even a microphone stand somewhere in a bar or discotheque you could walk up to, press the action button, and you would start singing Elvis songs. Stuff like that was refreshing in a genre that was dominated by killing demons with chainsaws and no fun whatsoever. 42 from 1996 again. Heroes of Might and Magic 2. I didn't play the first one. I definitely played the third one, but that will be in the next video. This was in between. It had some good gameplay elements, but it wasn't really perfected until the next game. It was a decent strategy game, but it didn't go to the top. 43, Quake, also from 96. Bit sharp edges, rough textures on the visual side, which felt a bit dull compared to the other games at the time that went with more smooth edges. But what it lacked in graphics, it made up for in gameplay. Quake was fast-paced and redefined the PvP genre. The possibility to go into arena matches with several people was redefining for FPS at the time and for years to come. Quake was absolutely dominating at this point, and the fast-paced gameplay with quick reactions winning in the matches was superb at the time. 44, Command & Conquer, Red Alert. Same gameplay as the other of these kind of games, building continuously on the gameplay developed in Dune. Better graphics, by far. Destructive environment. It was just better. The same, but better. Number 45, Settlers 2 from 96 again. A very complex micromanagement system game. The overall goal was to beat your opponents with soldiers, but to get there you had to build an entire community of resources and production and money making and food production and everything. Mining, gathering wood, stone. You see the mines down here. But in a very complex micromanagement system, you could easily get lost actually, looking at the small characters walking in between the flags. It was very good graphic-wise. It was stunning actually. If I zoom in a bit, you can see you made these roads or paths in between everything, all the buildings, and between every flag, one of your helpers were assigned to that little path. And there's a stone brick here that it was supposed to go somewhere. This is not my game, but it was mined. Up here you can see a guy with a pickaxe going up there. He would go up and mine the stone. He would then place it at a flag, and it would be moved all the way to where they're supposed to use it. It was very complex, and in the beginning it was just fun. But as you progressed in the game, it became really, really hard to sustain this community with all the different functions you had to maintain, and at the same time developing warriors that could conquer the others' territories. Fantastic game. Absolutely amazing. Lords of the Realm 2 from '96 again was another of these territory combat games. You had to conquer, but you had the main goal was actually trying to survive, maintaining your livestock, and constantly every turn you had to micromanagement your resources, your workers, to get both food and building materials. It wasn't a great game, I remember, but it was good in multiplayer because you could take turns, and then one guy, hot seat playstyle, something you couldn't do in Settlers, for example. So it was new in that way, but not the best game. 47, Hexen 2 from '97. I was greatly anticipating this game, and I did play it a lot. It's on my 100+ hours list. Graphics were great, gameplay was great, story was great, but the feel, the atmosphere, the tenseness, the horror from the Hexen, the first game, Hexen 1, they couldn't replicate it, even though they had the graphics there to improve it. It didn't have the same feel. I don't know why, but the atmosphere that was Hexen 1's absolutely best element, it wasn't replicated in Hexen 2. A lot of other things were, but not that. Still, decent game. 48, Carmageddon from '97. A weird car game where you should demolish your opponents or drive fastest through the checkpoints, or just mow down pedestrians. That was new. You had weaponry on the cars, and beating them from the right angles, you could destroy them, giving you points, gathering money to upgrade your car to go to the next stage. But killing innocent pedestrians was absolutely new at the time. It was unseen, and it was in the news that this was a horrible game. The game was actually very good, and it was very entertaining. It also had the option to play on LAN versus your friends, which gave it a lot more edge. Fantastic game. And I know it still lives on in different clones. My favorite car at the time. It had speed, it had maneuverability, and good damage. 49, Dungeon Keeper, also from 97. A very unique game, unseen at the moment, at the time, I mean. You started in a small dungeon with some demon helpers, and they could dig tunnels and dig out rooms. If you wanted them to work faster, you slapped them with your big hand, and they speeded up for a while. Then you could build different kind of rooms. This is a training room where you could send in your different demons to train and get stronger. There's a hatchery. It was very weird. And then you could play against the AI mainly, but also human players later on, to beat them out of their dungeon without losing your own. It was a different take on the whole Doom genre. And it was very entertaining. Not very long lasting, but very entertaining at the time. The last game in this video, number 50, Diablo from 97. As you know, Diablo is now a genre for hack and slash exploring gameplays, role-playing games. So you can't say that this wasn't a defining game, since it created a whole genre by itself. It has been copied and cloned so many times. And it was an amazing game in some ways. Later games are 100 times better, but at the time it was amazing. You could only use 2 skills at a time, then you had to swap around if you wanted to use something else. So it was very simplistic gameplay, but challenging and hard. The graphics weren't that great. There was a lot of darkness in the dungeons below the earth. But as I said, it was defining and made a whole new genre by itself, so I can't say that it wasn't a great, amazing game. And I think this also perhaps is close to my 100 hours played. I'm not sure. On the first one at least. I definitely have on the next, but that will be in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll launch part 3 soon. Hope you enjoyed it. See you around.